You're listening to the Best Morning Routine Ever podcast, the show that proves no one stumbles upon success ever. With your host, Lou Need. Every Mondays and Thursdays, we deliver cold hard evidence behind the power of a robust morning routine. Get ready to be transformed by the renewal of your mind.
Hello, morning enthusiasts. Welcome to the Best Morning Routine Ever podcast. I am your host, Dr. Lou Need, and today I have the honor of introducing a very special guest to the show, Jay Hall. So he has been involved with several startups, having sold a few, having failed in a few, and he's currently having a corporation that holds multiple trademarks. And so he is going to tell you about his unconventional journey, his way of getting where he is now, and talk about the success and growth of businesses also towards the end, his morning routine. So with no further ado, Jay, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Now we can talk about failing forward, but we know the life of entrepreneurship, it's not easy. And so let's talk about your journey and kind of like your passion to starting these startups, right? Businesses.
Yeah. Cole's noticing my story has always been one of my biggest challenges this year and last year, trying to sum it all up in a very succinct package. Started out as a DJ when I was in my teens, evolved into event promotion, owned a record label, went back into event promotion, worked in politics behind the scenes for 10 years, working on everything from small mayoral campaigns up to a presidential campaign in the US and several federal campaigns in Canada. And that evolved into nightclubs and events, which evolved into a marketing agency, which then leads to where I am today, running an event management and ticketing platform called Ticketote.
Oh, okay. So that's always been in the back end. So from DJing, it's always been event and marketing and kind of like media.
Yeah, that marketing. And I've had an interest in development. I'm a developer, but it's not my main area of focus. So my developers that work for me are superior to my development skills in every way. But development, business, and events is that's where my strong suit is. So I merged them all together into this one gigantic project.
Mm-hmm. And having several startups, we know failure is inevitable. Tell us about how you failed in the good way, in the good sense.
They do say there's no success without failure. Mm-hmm. And I think that's largely because I'm not saying that I'm egotistical. I'm saying everybody's got a little bit of ego in them and everybody thinks they get an idea. I know this has been with me and many people I've spoken to or spoken with or when I've spoken at conferences, and they've said to me, I had this great idea and boy, I could not see past the fact that I shouldn't have done it. It's because, COVID was definitely a big contributor to this, but 2016, I broke my back and I was paralyzed. And I didn't have a lot of options for what I could do with my time. So a friend had challenged me on what is now one of the most controversial subjects on the planet is whether vaccines are good or bad. So I spent 16 months pretty much, that's all I learned about. And it really taught me the value of learning in a way that I'd never learned before. Mm-hmm. In school, I was a mediocre student. In business school, I did great. But in high school and grade school, they pushed me through just to get me out of there. And I really looked at that whole experience and then what I do now. And I start everything with learning. Everything I failed, I started with an idea. And everything I succeeded in, I started with learning. So that's kind of how I look at failure and success now.
Everything that you succeeded, you started with learning. Everything that failed, it was an idea. So what you're saying is the importance of learning along the way, learning through the process, learning through the journey.
Yeah, the learning. So you can I have all these ideas all the time. I'm sure everybody does, especially entrepreneurial mind.
As entrepreneurs, we're tripping over
they're everywhere. Absolutely. Yeah. I found one in my fridge one time. So it was a sticky note that was in my fridge. I couldn't even decipher it. I found it like 6 months later and it was some idea for a business. But I think we all have a lot of ideas. And trying to figure out which ones to actually activate is a huge challenge. So I go and I learn about subjects that interest me, and that will generally trigger an idea or bring an idea full circle, as opposed to what I did in the past when I did fail, was I had an idea and I said, I'm going to do this no matter what. And I've had lots of ideas that I've started to learn, and I say, no, thank God I learned, because that would not have worked out well for me.
Yeah. And so the learning process, are we talking about doing market research, or we're just going theory wise and learning about how you're going to present it, how you're going to message it? Because that's marketing is like your realm, right?
Yes.
How you can understand it yourself to be able to explain it to others with ease. Finding the problem. I am fascinated with this learning aspect of it.
Yeah. So it's funny. I'm on TikTok and I do entrepreneurial content on TikTok. And the number one thing I get fight back from young entrepreneurs on, we're talking 16 to 25, is I don't want to write a business plan. I don't feel like I need one. And my staff are so sick of hearing this, but I say luck is not a plan. If you don't have a plan, you're going to rely on luck. So I take my learning the same way I write a business plan. And that is I break it up into pieces, and then I learn each piece. And if each piece is satisfied in my head after I've gone through and I've learned through, listening to experts in the field, listening to people that have been there before me, researching the industry, looking at the market research, looking at the marketability factors, all of that built into a very long learning process, which a lot of people don't want to do, right? Everybody, instant gratification these days.
Yeah.
I feel like the reason why in the last few years I've experienced more success than ever is because I take that long road of learning. And sometimes it can be detrimental, actually, because you got to jump on things quickly. But those are the things I've said to people that have events on my website, and I say to them, so what's your plan for I don't really have one. I'm like, oh, okay. So I see what kind of client. So this is how much I'm going to be billing you, because I know that we're going to have a lot of extra work to do. Whereas the people that come in with a plan, they barely even interact with us. They get on our site, they do what they need to do, and they're out. So I think the really quick ideas are generally going to be quick money in and probably start to stumble somewhere down. That's why you see these guys that are on TikTok that say, I made $3 million in 45 seconds. And then they disappear. The only thing they post about generally is their vacations and things. And it's not because they're so rich, they're vacationing all the time. It's because the businesses, I've talked to several of them, they're not long-term. So if you're going to start with learning, you probably have to get ready for long-term. If you're trying to make cash quick, I don't even know if that's really being a business person. That's more being a salesperson to trying to sell not the snake oil, but we'll call it the various kinds of oils as quickly as you can. So, yes.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. The learning aspect being it for the long-term, long haul. Now, I know you mentioned TikTok, and that's one of the newest ways of the newest platforms that you can actually market yourself on. So let's talk about the ever-changing climate of advertisement, right? So what are some of the do's and don'ts in especially this current economic climate?
Well, I would say any business that can get the buy-in from the people involved, including customers, clients, staff, partners,
investors.
Yeah, everybody, get them involved in the content. That's going to be the way you win the battle now. I have on the marketing side, so Sync Digital Solutions is my marketing company. And then I have an IT arm that deal with experimental AI. And we're doing a lot of coding on Ticket Tote, Caption Crusher, various other projects. And the one thing that I find is critical, and even clients that they see this and then they go back to their old ways of just standard pushing out advertisements, organic works. One of the best, actually I have it on my desk right here, is Boost Oxygen. So they were funded on Shark Tank, but I didn't, and I'm a big Shark Tank fan, but I completely forgot they existed. And then I started to see their organic content, people climbing up mountains and using it to get that extra burst, people in the gym working out, using it to get the extra burst. So I decided to use it, and it works like a charm. So I use it all the time. And I made some content, and they're very quick to message you, say, hey, can we use this video? So they've done that with me 3 or 4 times, and they kick me back cans of Boost, and they make money off of it. And I think organic, if anybody's going to do anything right now, they have to think, how can I get that buy-in and go organic as I possibly can?
Going organic. So in what you just described, what we're talking about, so being organic and also using your network, your influencers per se, to help push the product out to get noticed.
Yeah, but it's got to be natural. I think people forgot when social media got big that about the word social. They're really focused on the media side, but they're not focused on the social side. How many brands do you go to and they have an interesting post and you comment and you get nothing back, or you just get a like back? They don't reply to you. They don't DM you afterwards. That should be an absolute grounds for firing in this climate, I think, for a marketer. You have to put out great content that has a sales message to it, but it naturally flows into it. Like with this boost stuff, right? I did a video in a gym in Vegas and I was exhausted. I'd been flying all over the place, driving everywhere. I hadn't slept in days. I wanted to get one good workout in because of the days of eating junk food on the road and everything. So I got but I started to stumble halfway through the workout. So I hit my boost and I was doing it while I was doing an Instagram live. And people were like, holy crap, you're completely different 5 minutes later. And that's what they use. And see, that's a sales message, but it's a natural marketing message. It's part of the conversation. So I think the social is absolutely a piece people forget that they have to start remembering.
Yeah. When did we lose that? As simple as you put it, as innocent that it is, when did we lose that aspect of just organically doing things, and when it becomes a sales? You think we learned too much? We overdid it, right? We had to think of tactics and how to do the branding, the messages, that it doesn't come naturally anymore. It doesn't flow. It's like a big headache just trying to get your message out these days. When did we lose that?
I blame Mark Zuckerberg. And it's funny because it's, when you're I met him once. I used to go to Facebook all the time for pre-pandemic for marketing. I was an agency that was part of the partner program, and I knew a lot of people at Facebook. And I said to people, not to him directly, because I only had a very short time with him, but I said to people as VPs and everything, I said, I blame Mark for what's happened, because what Facebook started as and what Facebook is today are two completely different platforms. Mm-hmm. And why they would ever think that they could retain the same users from before while going into a complete digital marketing and social media should have been the new frontier for marketing in a very cohesive way with very clear messaging. But it became an ads platform, just like TV, just like newspaper, just like radio. Yeah. And I buy premium subscriptions to everything just because I'm so annoyed with the ads. I won't even play games on my phone anymore if they don't give me a subscription that gets rid of the ads. So I think that's, and Facebook definitely led the way on that. The big difference between Facebook and MySpace was the fact that MySpace could not figure out how to get ads working properly. You're flooded with ads for Viagra and stuff like that when you were like a 15-year-old kid. And Facebook figured it out. And then they leaned so heavily into it. And then it became all about the public price, the stock price, right? And now it's not about satisfying the users anymore. It's about satisfying the shareholders. And that was started by Mark. That was started by Facebook. It continues on. We look at the debacle of Twitter right now, same thing. I think there's just this huge disconnect, and everybody's treating not everybody, but a lot of people are treating social media like a newspaper, like a radio ad. And that's kind of the message that these owners have put out. So it's that they've really shot themselves in the foot, I think.
And so we got to go back to the basic, right? Just learn how to connect with our audience as entrepreneurs, know how to organically put the message in there. And the posting is important. The messaging is important. So I feel like we're working backwards. We went in, we learned so much. Now it's like, go back to the basics, go back to the foundation. So let's talk about the top 5 ways to get noticed online, to get clients. Besides, we tapped into it a little bit about the audience, getting buy-in from the audience and organically reaching them. What are some other ways?
Okay, so number one thing, overarching over everything, be sincere and genuine. Mm-hmm. I actually just launched a new marketing campaign for our ticketing site, and it's aimed at nightclub owners. And the messaging is, I was a nightclub owner, you're a nightclub owner. I understand where you're coming from and why, all the challenges that come with it. And I started this for us. This project is to address all the concerns with guest lists and VIP systems that exist in nightclubs that for decades have driven us all up the wall. Instead of here is my guest list and here are the 12 features you can get from it. I don't think that that's very effective in an online space. And especially since you have such, you got just this micro amount of time to get somebody's attention. Sincerity and genuine, your messaging should be that. Number two is to involve others in your brands, other brands in your brands, influencers, just get others involved. Doesn't really matter how you do it or who it is. I had a Halloween event I sold last year that I did for 5 years. And we were terrifying. We were the most extreme experience for Halloween you could find in Canada. And I made sure to involve anybody that came out of my experience laughing or crying. Anybody that came out of it, it was like, well, whatever. It didn't really scare me because they're tough guys. It's like, okay, I push them aside. But these people, I immediately, as soon as they came out of the experience, there was a camera. So what'd you think? And they're bawling their eyes out, their makeup's going down their face. They got fake blood all over them. These people are crying. They can barely even keep their feet. So, a loud sound hits from behind. They crumble because their legs are mush. Things like that you get your customer, everybody involved in your marketing, but make sure that you're this is the crux to it, pulling their content in. So instead of use user-generated content to its advantage, because you posting somebody else is not as effective as sharing what they posted about you. So that would be my second thing. My third thing is don't overcomplicate it. Like you're saying, back to basics and fundamentals. Mm-hmm. You don't need $100,000 website if you're selling, 2 products and booking appointments for your hair salon. Keep it so simple, because if you try to be something you're not, when they come to the real world experience, they're going to get something entirely different. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of brands are faking it, kind of online. And then when they have a disconnect from the real. So that will connect, we'll say, to the next tip is do not create this false sense online. And then when people come to you in real life, they get something entirely different. Be online who you are in the real world. I think that's critical. And then we got, what's one more? One more would be do not do too much online in terms of don't join every network. Join the networks that you have a plan for. A very particular plan for TikTok versus my very particular plan for LinkedIn versus Facebook.
Right.
I generally, as a brand, I say, I don't know how important it is for a company to have a TikTok as it is for the people in the company to have TikToks talking about the company.
I see. And that brings me to my next question. Do we need to have all the platforms? And I think you alluded to that. Yeah.
No, there's too many. I was really hoping that by now social media would niche down. Facebook, I read somewhere today that Facebook had last quarter had 3 billion people. That's half the world. Why do you need half the world? That's too big. There's no way to satisfy everybody. And we look at American elections as the best example. 50% of the people love and 50% of the people hate everything that happens, right?
Yeah.
So if you got half the world on your platform, chances are a quarter of the world hates what you're doing. Whereas if you niche down and you're focusing in on particular topics, for example, if you had a network for hairstylists and people that are all about hair, you maybe build up a community of 2-3 million people. But it's 2 to 3 million people that are engaged, interested in the topic. They know what they're going there for. But you go to Facebook and you're like, what am I even doing here at this point? And LinkedIn has become, it used to be LinkedIn followed The Office, no politics, no religion, no personal drama, right? Now I go on LinkedIn and I'm like, I have to look at another person's post about all the drama that's going on in their lives and posting political stuff. And that's not the stuff that matters to business, So I just, you're right. We don't need all those platforms. I think we need more niche platforms though. So I'd be okay with more platforms that niche down than more gigantic, trying to appease everybody kind of platforms.
And I think it's up to the business owner to know who your avatar, who your audience is, and find out where they hang out and just kind of stay there, focus there to reach them.
Yeah,
more.
That can be a little tricky too, because instinctively, if I say to somebody who's over the age of 35, you should be on TikTok and here's why. And they say, no, I heard it's for kids, and you go, well, here's the thing. The adults that are on there are engaged. I mean, their engagement rates are through the roof, and they all got on there because they wanted to know what this platform was that all their kids were on. And it turned into, I mean, I get more messages and more interaction on TikTok from business people than I do on LinkedIn right now. I thought it was weird in the beginning, but they're going there because the algorithm is so good. So if you start watching a bunch of business content, your feed is going to be all business content, right? So mine's business content and 90s wrestling. That's what my whole feed is all the time.
That's funny. So let's talk about the clients that you do get. How do you make their lives easier, what you do?
So I think as a marketing IT firm, the best way to do it is to connect them with the right technology and to teach them how to use the technology. So we have a very different mandate than we did, we'll say 4 or 5 years ago. Our mandate 4 or 5 years ago, let's do everything for everybody. Let's make all their posts. Let's do all their blogs. Let's do all their email marketing campaigns. Let's produce all their videos. And then I sat back and said, God, we're doing so much work and these people aren't learning a thing. So then when they go and they, let's say they say, okay, well, we see the success, then they go off, they always come back, right? Because they're like, oh, we didn't realize how much you guys did. So I said, well, that's not really a recipe for success because I don't want to be doing this forever. I want to travel and write and, live on beaches. So we're really trying to connect the right tools and teach people how to use those tools. For example, people like ChatGPT, half the world thinks it's terrible and it's going to ruin the world, cost everybody their jobs. And half the people are like, they're really curious about it, but they don't really know how to use it. And it's a really hard tool to learn to use properly. So, that's my current mission right now, teaching people to use ChatGPT properly.
Okay. Yeah. And knowing how to niche down and know how to use those resources, those tools. There's so many tools, so many different tools out there. Aim to make our life easier, but they are counterintuitive.
Yeah, it's the internet was supposed to make our lives easier. In some ways it did, but then it gave us a whole bunch of other work.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much, it's kind of like a catch-22, The internet's a weird place.
I know. So tell us about some of the habits you have to put in place to ensure that you're successful and can show up for the clients you serve, right? So how do you get up, dress up, and show up?
Well, my morning routine is so critical to me. It's been thrown off a little bit lately because I've been working 10 a.m. till 3 p.m. and then 5 p.m. till 1 a.m. every day for the last month. And I'll be doing that for the next couple of months. So it's thrown off slightly. But today is a great example. Today, I managed to get it all in before I came to work and I feel amazing. So
maybe because you were coming on the Best Morning Routine Ever podcast.
Well, I was like, I better live it again, right? Like, it'd been a few days. I was really there was no gas in my tank for a few days. So, but today I woke up feeling really good. The first thing I do is I get 10 minutes of sunshine, regardless of whether it's through my window, on my balcony. I live in Winnipeg, so there's lots of snow. So sometimes you don't want to go outside, but 10 minutes of sunshine immediately when I wake up sets my rhythm perfectly. Yeah. Then I grab my phone and I address everything that happened for the 4 to 8 hours I was asleep. And there's usually a lot. So I do that from bed, just kind of relaxing and doing it while taking my supplements, my veggie greens, my fruits, my, different vitamins, all that. And then from there, I go and I'll do a workout, no more than 20 minutes ever. Set my clock for 20 minutes. And at the end of 20 minutes, I'm done. And then while I'm working out, I have videos on that are playing in the background that are educating me on something. So it's a part of my learning process throughout the day. So today it was learning more about some of the AI companies that are offshooting from ChatGPT. And then after that, I sit down and I meditate for 15 minutes and just get my head clear, figure out what my day should be like. Even though I figured out my to-do list the night before, a lot changes between going to bed and getting up. So, really just digesting what I have to do to win my day. And then, shower, I have a quick bite to eat. And then I usually head to the office and I am with my team in a support role until about 3:00. And then I take a break and I will go about and I will, do some errands or whatever I have to do, or just decompress for 2 hours, come back to work 5 to 1 with my developers and develop some cool new products.
Nice. Now you mentioned that your tank was empty the last few days, and then you did the morning routine, and it kind of kicked you back into gear. What's the benefit to doing it? Because you don't get to do it all the time. And how do you feel? How do you show up to the rest of the day when it's not done?
Well, when I get my morning routine in, I think the reason why it works is I'm getting essential pieces of my environment, of relaxation, of working out, my vitamin, all this. I'm getting all that in when some days most days years ago, I never got any of that in. Didn't work out, didn't get healthy, didn't take in much sunshine. The only sunshine I got was in my vehicle as I was driving to work, and I start my day with the intent of being connected to my environment, connected to my mind in a peaceful manner, and then connected to my work and my mission. And what I did find was until I was able to recharge, I took 2 days off and did nothing on the weekend. I had to, because I'd been going for about a month working, 16, 20-hour days. So I took the 2 days off to relax. And then I got back into my morning routine, and I realized how stressed out and how quick to, not anger, but quick to react I was without my morning routine.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true. You're more flighty, and you're taken back. You're more surprised with how when things come versus gracefully going through it and expecting it and kind of having the stamina, tenacity to go through it. I agree with you 100%. That's the power of the morning routine. It helps you show up better.
It does, yeah.
Because the situation that doesn't change, right? The things still come at you. It's just the way you respond to it.
Yeah, and when you start the day properly, where you have all these connections you make, you have a bit more pep in your step for the rest of your day, right? And that little bit of extra energy, that little bit of extra intent, that little bit of extra happiness, it makes all the difference when life just decides to come at you throughout the day, right? You just have a little more peace in your heart, your mind, and you can you're more optimized. I like to say it like that, or I run a scan. We run scans on our websites every day to make sure there's no problems. That's like the morning routine is like scanning, for me. It's really just allowing me to connect properly with everything around me. And for the rest of the day, I benefit from it. That's why I want to do the podcast, because I love the fact that you put so much emphasis on a morning routine.
I concur. Yeah, 100%. It optimizes your day. It optimizes you. So you're better. You're better tackling the day, and you're better to your clients, right? That's the goal, is to be intentional, to show up with great intent in whatever that we do throughout the day. Tell us, where can we connect with you? How can we find you?
Well, I'm all over the place. On that last point, though, I just want to say the most important thing is the connecting with sunshine, because it's
non-negotiable for you.
Non-negotiable. You have to get it. It restarts your body. It's really cool how it works. When I made the intent to start doing that after about 4 or 5 days, I really noticed a difference. So that was just what I really wanted to emphasize for people. That's a big piece of it. So on TikTok, you can find me. I'm Entrepreneur, so honest entrepreneur combined, HON entrepreneur. On Instagram, you can connect with my brands, either Ticket Tote or syncds.agency. And on LinkedIn, Jay Hall. On Instagram, Hall Smash. It's a boxing reference. And that's pretty much all the places you can find me. Projectsbyjay.com is my personal website. And tickettote.com is my main project. That's my event marketing and event management firm.
Perfect. We love quotes here at BMR. Go ahead and leave us with one of your favorites.
Well, I'll repeat one from earlier. Luck is not a plan, so plan to not get lucky.
Love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's been a pleasure having you on the show, Jay. Looking forward to this going on.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, morning enthusiasts, that's it for today's show. Thank you for tuning in. If you love the Best Morning Routine Ever podcast, we'd love to hear from you. So go ahead and subscribe, rate, and give a review on iTunes or Google Play. While you're at it, tell a friend about the show. Be sure to visit bestmorningroutineever.com and our Facebook group to join the conversation, access the show notes, and discover our fantastic free bonus content. Until next time,